Hi everyone, welcome back to day 15 of our Teamcenter interview preparation series. Today we are going to see Access Manager in Teamcenter. Let's get started. In the previous session, we discussed classification in Teamcenter. We saw how parts are organized into a hierarchy. We saw the concept of group, abstract class, and storage class. We understood attributes, key LOV, ICO, and indexing. So now we know how parts are classified and stored in a digital library. But one question, now we know how data is created, structured, approved, and classified. But who can actually read this data? Who can edit it? And who can delete it? Can every user in the company access, modify, or delete this product data? Is there any way to control this? That is where Access Manager in Teamcenter comes into the picture. So, here is what we will cover today. Let me start with a simple example. Think about a company with three people: a design engineer, a reviewer, and a shop floor worker. The design engineer should be able to read and edit parts. The reviewer should only be able to read them, not edit or delete. The shop floor worker should only view the data, nothing else. Now, without any control, anyone can open any object and modify or delete it. That is a big problem in a product company. That is exactly what Access Manager solves. So, what is Access Manager in Teamcenter? Access Manager controls who can access, modify, and delete product data objects. It uses a combination of rules and ACLs, which is Access Control List, to determine the access, and it grants or revokes privileges based on the user's identity, group, and role. Three things Access Manager provides: data protection. Only authorized users can access sensitive product data. Role based control. Different roles get different permissions. Rules and ACLs, the two building blocks that work together. And one important point to remember about Access Manager is it does not control the creation of objects. It only controls operations on existing objects. Now let's understand ACL, Access Control List. An ACL is simply a list of who gets what access. More specifically, it is a list of accessors and the privileges granted or denied to each accessor. Each individual pairing of an accessor with their privileges is called an ACE, Access Control Entry. Let me explain with an example. Let's say we have an ACL called Item Revision ACL. This ACL says for design engineer, read and write access is granted. For reviewer, read access is granted but write and delete access is denied. For shop floor worker, read access is granted but write and delete access is denied. This one ACL controls what different people can do with an item revision. Now, four important points about ACLs. 1. ACL does not control creation of objects, only operations on existing objects. 2. One ACL can have multiple accessor entries. Each one is one ACE. 3. Named ACLs are reusable. The same ACL can be assigned to many rules. 4. Privileges can be granted, denied, or not set. Not set means no explicit decision. Now, let's go through the each privilege in detail. Read. This allows the user to view the object and its properties. This is the most basic privilege and the most important one. Without read, nothing else works. Write. This allows the user to edit or modify the object. But remember, without read, write alone has no effect. Delete. This allows the user to permanently remove the object, usually restricted to owners and administrators only. Export. This allows the user to export object data outside Teamcenter. Very important for multi-site environments and supplier sharing. Publish. This allows publishing the object to external systems, or changing its release state visibility. Change owner. This allows transferring ownership of the object to another user or group. One golden rule to always remember: read always comes first. If read is denied, the user cannot even see the object, so all other privileges become irrelevant. Now let's understand accessors. An accessor is the entity that is being granted or denied a privilege in an ACL. There are four types of accessors in Teamcenter. User, a specific individual user. This has the highest priority in Access Manager. Use it only for exceptions when one specific person needs different access than their group. Group, all members of a specific group like design department. Applied when the user logs in with that group. It is common for department level access control. Role, all users holding a specific role like designer. Role applies across all groups. So if you are a designer in any group, the role accessor applies to you. World applies to every single user in the system. It is used to set the baseline default access. Usually gives only read access. The priority order would be: user is the highest, then group plus role combination, then role alone, then group alone, and the world is the lowest. Most specific accessor always wins. Let's understand the AM rule tree. This is where everything comes together in Access Manager. Rules in Access Manager are organized in a structure called the rule tree. This tree is always evaluated from top to bottom, which means rules at the top have higher priority than rules at the bottom. So let me walk you through a simple rule tree. At the very top, we have POM application object, which has the highest priority and is the object level ACL. Then below that, we have world, which is the baseline rule that applies to everyone in the system. Then below that, we have has type item revision, which are rules that apply specifically to item revision objects. And inside that, we have has status released, which are rules that apply only when an object is in released status. Then we have is owned by, which are the rules that apply to the object owner. And finally, we have in project, which are rules that apply to members of a specific project. Now, the question is, how does Teamcenter actually evaluate this rule tree when a user tries to access an object? So, the first thing that happens is the user tries to access an object in Teamcenter. Then, the system starts from the very top of the rule tree and moves downward. For each rule, the system checks whether the condition of that rule matches the current object. If the condition matches, the ACL assigned to that rule is applied, and based on that rule, the privilege is either granted or denied to the user. The most important point to remember here is that the rule tree is always evaluated top to bottom. Higher position in the tree means highest priority, and the first matching rule is the one that wins. Now, let's understand one more important concept, which is the difference between named ACL and rule based ACL. Let me start with named ACL. A named ACL is created once and stored by a name, for example, design ACL. It is then assigned to rules in the rule tree. The same named ACL can be used by multiple rules at the same time. So, if you make any change to the named ACL, that change automatically applies everywhere it is used. Think of it as define once and apply everywhere. This makes it much easier to manage and much easier to maintain. Now let's understand rule-based ACL, which is also called object ACL. A rule-based ACL is applied directly on one specific object. It overrides the rule tree for that particular object only. It is mainly used for exceptions to global rules. Let me give you a simple example. Globally, reviewers can only read an item revision, but for one special item revision, you want a specific reviewer to also have write access. In that case, you put a rule based ACL directly on that specific object, and that rule based ACL overrides the global rule for just that one object. Also, rule based ACL has higher priority than named ACL. So, the simple way to remember this is named ACL is reusable, it is assigned to rules, and it applies globally across the system. Rule based ACL is applied on one specific object, it overrides the rules, and it is used only as an exception. Now, let's look at where Access Manager is used in real Team Center projects. The first use case is role based access in implementation. The very first thing an admin sets up during any Team Center implementation is Access Manager. All groups and roles are configured at this stage. Design, review, manufacturing, each one gets the right privileges based on their responsibilities. The second use case is protecting released data. Once an item revision is released, the rule has status released automatically kicks in. This rule restricts write and delete access on that object, so no one can accidentally modify or delete approved product data. The third use case is data migration projects. During data migration, Access Manager rules are tested very carefully because if the ACL setup is wrong, engineers will not be able to access their migrated data after go live. This is why access validation is considered a critical step in every data migration project. The fourth use case is multi site and supplier access. In large organizations that have multiple sites or external suppliers, Access Manager controls what those external partners can read or export from Teamcenter. This protects the intellectual property of the organization. So, let's quickly wrap up everything we covered today. Access Manager controls who can read, write, delete, and export objects in Teamcenter. It uses rules and ACLs together to determine the access. An ACL is a list of accessors and privileges, and each individual pairing is called one ACE. The privileges are read, write, delete, export, and change owner. Read always comes first, and without read, nothing else works. The accessors are user, group, role, and world, and user has the highest priority among all of them. The AM rule tree is always evaluated from top to bottom, and the higher position in the tree means higher priority. Named ACL is reusable and is assigned to rules in the rule tree. Rule based ACL is applied on one specific object and overrides the rules for that specific object only. And Access Manager is used in role based access configuration, protecting released data, data migration projects, and multi site and supplier access control in real Team Center projects. That completes our day 15. See you in the day 16 video. Thanks for watching.